You're listening to Season 2 of the griefsense podcast. I'm your host, Mimi Gonzalez, aka the Zillennial Griever. I am a creative, entrepreneur, social impact strategist, and community organizer based in Hartford, Connecticut. But most importantly, I am a griever. Griefsense is really a safe space for creatives who are grievers. And I really created this space because it's something I wish I had. And sometimes you have to create the things that you wish existed. I am a serial griever where I've experienced significant loss, losing about 20 people before I turned 25 years old. And it was really hard to find community, people who looked like me in the death positive movement space. On the show, you'll mainly hear from Gen Z and millennial minoritized grievers, but you'll also have some advocates on the show who share our experience, but also want to amplify our voices and our stories. So what is griefsense? What does that even mean, right? It's not just some fancy name of a brand of the podcast, okay? It's actually a term that I've coined to name my experience. Sometimes the words that exist in our vernacular aren't really representative of our lived experience. And so thus griefsense was born. So griefsense to me really is an inner sixth sense and intuition that's unlocked after experiencing physical loss, and it inspires purpose through creative expression, hence grievers who are creatives. So we do this in three ways. One, we embrace our mantra, which is we live life as a privilege. Two, we honor our ancestors and the legacies of our loved ones who have died. And three, we not only normalize talking about grief and death and everything in between, but we really talk about the importance of planning for our death and talking about this in community with our families. What are our death care wishes? And really normalizing that, because that is not something that we typically do in our very death phobic world. I hope that when you tuned into these episodes that you feel super comfortable. I want you to think that you are in a living room, or in Spanish we say the sala, but the grief sala. And I hope that you're able to have tea in your hand or a cafecito, so that way you're comfortable. I want you to feel like you're talking to your best friends or your primos or your cousins, people who really understand you and get it. And if you are not a griever, and if you are here to learn and listen to the stories that are shared on the show, thank you so much for being here. Your voice is important too, because guess what? If you're not a griever now, unfortunately, you will be one day. And I'm hoping that the insights that you hear on the show will help you navigate that experience. One thing I wanted to also share, y'all, griefsense is always going to be lowercase, because death, grief, all of that, it can be really scary. So these conversations is to really destigmatize death and grief, and really making sure it's like relatable, digestible, accessible. And yeah, it can be scary for sure, but let's do it together. Let's be in community together. So with that, welcome to the movement, welcome to La Familia, and welcome to griefsense. Let's dive in. What's good, griefsense familia? We are back with another episode, and y'all, I can't. Every time we have a new episode, I just keep meeting the most amazing, beautiful souls that enter my life. And literally, if we've never experienced our losses, we would have never met each other. I mean, I'm pretty sure we would be grateful without the losses, but still grateful about meeting these amazing people. And the beautiful soul that I have joining us here today is Tatiana Banks, and I'm going to actually have her introduce herself, and we're going to jump in. But I just know that our conversation is going to touch a lot of hearts today. And I feel connected to her so much, and I know you will too. So take it away.
Yeah. Hi, guys. My name is Tatiana Banks. I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada. I am a young widow and a mom of two. I currently run and own a childcare business. Keeps me busy on top of my own kids. Um, and yeah, I'm here to share my story, teach other people about grief, because it just seems, I know it's not anything I knew anything about. And I just want to help the world understand it a little bit more. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Well, that was perfectly put. And that's really what this platform is about, right? Like, it's so wild to me how death is the number one, like, inevitable reality we're all going to face, but we don't talk about it. Like,
Literally. literally.
Math ain't mathin'. The math will never math
It's
with you.
not, never.
So, and I just also want to say how, we got acquainted. So, and it's just really the power of social media. And like on the podcast so far, I've really been like shouting out LinkedIn. But to be honest, TikTok is kind of neck and neck with LinkedIn for me these days. I've been really putting a lot more energy and intention into TikTok. I just feel like I'm meeting quality people. Hello, Exhibit A. Um, and I posted a video. I forgot. I think it said when you're a grief content creator and your grief gets in the way of creating content.
Yeah.
And you
Oh, that's right.
commented.
Yeah.
I was like, she found me? Like, I'm just and okay, I'm not even gonna lie, y'all. That video, that was a draft from like November of last year. And I was just like, I just need to get content out there because it's been a little while. I'm kind of slacking. There's a whole bunch of things going on in my life right now. Let me release something in the drafts. And if I never did that, like you would have never commented. And yeah, so
The importance of releasing those drafts.
yes, and like just put your content out there. And of course, what do you do when someone comments? You go to their profile, and I go to her profile. I'm like, oh, okay, I need to have her on. Not only am I going to have her on the podcast, hopefully that she's going to accept that request, but like, is she taking new bestie applications? Because I'm trying to put mine in.
I got you.
So shout out to my new bestie. Um,
Yay.
But all right, y'all, let's dive in. Let's dive in. So, Tatiana, I would love to know who would you like to call into our space today? Who are we honoring?
We are honoring my late husband, Daniel Banks.
So, I would like to hold a deep breath together. Usually I do like the box breathing method. So, we'll breathe in for 4, we'll hold for 4, and then exhale for 4. And then throughout the show, like if there's something really deep, we gonna hold another breath. We gonna hold some more space.
Okay.
So, all right, let's inhale for 4, hold, exhale. I am honored to amplify Daniel today and your story and for the world to know him. So, with that, as much or as little as you'd like to share, can you please share your grief story with us?
Absolutely. Um, so where do you even start?
I know.
Um, well, I guess the easiest version, my husband went to work and didn't come back home. It's like a normal day. We'd get up in the morning. We were up a little earlier than normal that day, a lot earlier. And we were in bed watching TikToks, and even to this day, I go back to the TikToks we were sending to each other, literally laying next to one another. Um, and he wasn't feeling well. He was like super congested, but he's like, oh, it's my allergies. And I'm kind of like really tough, right? So I normally would tell him any other time, like, you gonna get through that, you gonna go to work. But that day I was like, if you're not feeling good, babe, like, just stay home. Like, we don't got nothing, whatever. And he was like, no. He was like, I really want to buy a new TV. And I was like, okay. So he's like, I'm just going to go in. I'll work like a half day and blah, blah, blah. And we're good. And so I was like, okay. So then he went to work fine. No problem. And then he texted me around 7:30 in the morning. And he was like, they're switching my location. And I was like, what do you mean they're switching your location? Because he was on the strip. So he was a roofer. And he was on the strip and he was fixing that. And then um, he was like, they switched me to somewhere kind of like out of parameters, but they got paid more money. And I was like, okay, well, just keep me updated, right? There was never an update after that. And so I kind of try to go throughout the day with our toddler, just being normal. And, but something felt odd and I couldn't explain it. And so, like, I started texting him, I want to say at like 10 a.m., because that's when he would have either been done or if he decided to work a full day, he'd take a break. And I had a really good husband. So, like, he always called me every break, text me. So the day goes on, radio silence. And I'm like, okay, all right. And I'm starting to freak out, but I'm trying not to freak out too much. So around what would have been the end of his workday, I did call his job and I was like, hey, is Daniel there? And they were like, oh no, well, he didn't report. And I was like, what do you mean he didn't report? I don't make no sense. Okay. I was like, all right. So I just clicked, right? And so then I tried to rationalize. I was like, maybe he had a bad day at work. Maybe something happened and he just let, I don't know, right? Because there's so many possibilities. So, the day keeps going on, typing keeps going on. I checked for accidents. Our car was not anywhere, on the news or anything. I checked the jails, I called hospitals, nothing. So I'm like, okay. So finally, I was like, all right, it's literally 5 p.m. and this is a normal, it's not okay. And meanwhile, I'm still texting him, like, are you okay? I just want you home, whatever it is, we'll figure it out. And so finally, I call my dad. My dad used to be in law enforcement. And I was like, hey, I've been like trying to hold this in all day, but like I haven't heard from Daniel. Have you? Can you help me? If I've called, I've checked, I've done my due diligence. And he was like, yeah. He's like, just give me a minute and I'll see what I can find out if I find out anything or get a hold of him. And I was like, okay, cool. So then I head into my therapy session that I had, and I'm telling her, and I'm like, something just doesn't feel right, and I don't know how to explain it. And she's like, everything's fine. He probably is just having a rough day or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, no, I understand, but that's also my husband. Like, something's not right. And I get off the phone, and literally right after I get out of that session, there's a knock at the door. And so I go to the door, and it's my dad. And I was like, hey. And I see my mom like standing right behind him, like just, and I looked at him and like, my dad's a really like stuffed, stern dude. And he was just like, I'm so sorry, baby. And I was like, no. And I was like, he's okay, right? He was like, he's gone, baby. I'm sorry. And I was like, sorry.
It's okay. Take your time, please. Please.
So at that time, I like fell to my knees and like my son's looking at me like, you all right, lady? And like even trying to process something like that is, I don't know. So yeah, and that was pretty much the day that literally changed every aspect of my life. Um, Shortly after that, he was involved in a head-on collision, literally about a minute and a half from his job site. So he didn't fully make it in.
Wow.
Um, he died at 8:30 in the morning. Um, I was never notified by anybody, law enforcement, nobody. And I know a lot of people have had questions, well, how did your dad find out? Things like that. I still to this day have no clue. We've never actually had that conversation. Um, and yeah, so
Wow.
yeah, and then after that was kind of just a blur and trying to figure out how to plan a funeral. And, I wanted it done as quick as possible because in my mind, just getting things done is how I operate. So it's the only way I knew how to
Right.
respond. Um, so we had the funeral, and then 2 weeks after that, I found out I was pregnant with our second child.
Wow.
And here we are.
Remember that deep breath thing we did? We're gonna do that one more
Yeah.
time. Yeah, if you don't mind, let's do that one more time.
Yeah.
So, breathe in for 4. Hold. Exhale. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing. And on this platform, I'm very mindful of that question. What is your grief story, right? And I'm very mindful of that because I feel that when you're talking to a friend, acquaintance, someone at work, or like just any other person, right, who doesn't really know grief or can relate to your grief, when they ask you what's your grief story, it's like they want to know how and when and all the details. Like, what are you doing to support me? Like, all you need to know is they died and I'm struggling and we gonna keep it going, right?
Right. Right.
But I just want you to know that I'm really grateful for you taking the time to, 1, be on this platform, 2, sharing your story, and 3, for sharing your grief story with us. Because and especially after I found your page and got to watch some of your videos, I just felt instantly connected with you. um and I just can't imagine, like, that is a pain that is different than losing a parent, than losing a child, than losing a grandparent, a friend. That's your partner in this life. That's just a completely different grief. So I just want to recognize and acknowledge that.
Thank you. And this is why you're amazing.
Thank you. And I've shared with you, right? Like, I've experienced so many losses. Um, Lost a parent, lost a grandparent, lost a godparents, lost my cousins, lost my friends, but it's not comparable to losing your partner. And I feel like I know this grief vicariously only because, my mom lost her partner in this life, my father. And I think that's why I feel so connected with you. Just seeing my mom still be the best mom that she knew how and knows how, considering the deck of cards she was dealt, and still finding a way to smile and still finding ways to be creative and finding ways to have her own business and being a mom to other children. And I just think you're incredible, and I'm so happy you didn't give up, even though I'm sure there are times that you want to, you know. So thank you for not giving up. Yeah. Wow. Well, I also see on your page, and I'm sure people ask you all the time, right? You have found love again after Daniel's passing. And can you talk to us a little bit about that? How's that experience been, while still grieving and raising children and finding love and still trying to make sense of life?
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably my, I guess, favorite part, right? Because it's like your triumph or whatever. Um, so after Daniel died, I was like, I'm good. I'm never gonna date again. I'm never gonna love again. Um, at that point, after I had given birth to our second child, I had my tubes removed. So that means I can no longer have children because that's how out of it I was. Um, and then about a year and a half, almost 2, um, and I'm just scrolling through TikTok, right? Kind of like with you, the beauty of social media.
Mm-hmm.
And, and it's not like guys weren't interested or wanted to, but I was like, yeah, no, I'm okay. You're not anything anywhere near what we would even need. So I'm okay.
Right.
So I'm just scrolling on TikTok and, there's this guy, he's cute. And I'm like, okay. So I just liked it. And then I commented on his little video and, he responded. And then after that, we started following each other on Instagram. And we just were really cool, like just honestly really good friends. Like there was never any anything extra just besides friendship. Um, and this wonderful human being's name is Robert.
Hey, Robert.
And um, yeah, he changed my life in a different way, you know. Um, I ended up going to Florida. We ended up meeting in person and hanging out, and it was literally instant. And just certain things about him, I was like, and things he said, would only be things, and I'll put this on everything I love, that my husband would know, like only.
Wow.
And he did and said these things, and I was like, all right, what is this? What are you? Who are you? What are you? You know, he has 2 kids as well, and um, something I personally before loss never thought I would ever engage in. And then with me being a widow, I thought he wouldn't want to engage in anything more than friendship with me. Um, was totally wrong. And we realized very quickly on that we loved each other. And I was just like, whoa, how is this happening? Because I went from never again
Right.
to what's going on, because it felt so familiar,
Wow.
if that makes any sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And here we are today. I gave him a timeline. I was like, if you're serious about this, me and these kids and this life and what I come with, you know, I don't play house. You got to make me a girlfriend. You got to make me a wife. And he was just like, that's not a problem. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. Um, and then the next thing I knew, I was a fiance, and I was like, what is going on? And in the midst of my grief, it was a lot, because I'm mourning certain situations while also feeling extremely joyous, because during this time period, I've just been in constant survival mode, just making sure home's taken care of and my boys are taken care of. And to have someone come in and be like, okay, but are you okay? I didn't have that after Daniel died. No one was like, but are you good? Like, can I take care of you? And that's exactly how my late husband was. He was such a, I don't care about anyone else, everything else. Are you okay? And he has not fallen short of that since. Um, he is loved on my boys like no other, something I never even fathomed was possible. Um, and they love him like it's their dad, and with my oldest, we've had conversations, and he was like, well, he is like my dad, Mom. And I was like, you don't have to feel or call or anything like that. And he's like, I know, Mom. I like that I have 2 dads. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. And he's like, yeah, I have my daddy in heaven, and then I have my daddy Robert here. And I'm like, yeah. Um, so yeah, honestly, it's all just been a true blessing, and my late husband knew me, and as much as I know that I'm strong and capable and competent to do this life, um, I needed Robert in many ways. Just the same way as I still need Daniel, and I get to still hold on to those things, while having someone else still love me too, physically. Um, so yeah, it's been really great. It's been quite an experience. I will say a lot of people have a lot of opinions about things. You didn't grieve long enough, you grieved too short, too long, whatever. You'll never make anyone happy. Um, but yeah, we're here thriving. Everyone's happy. I'm very much in love. He very much still helps me honor Daniel. He is all for Daniel, and that's literally the biggest blessing ever, because I don't have to tone down a thing, and he's just there.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing. And also, yeah, everyone doesn't matter, right? Like OPO, other people's opinions.
Right. Yeah.
They literally do not matter. They're not living your life. You don't owe explanations to anybody. And like you mentioned, like grief, especially when it's so fresh, it can be so lonely and so
Yeah,
isolating. And to have someone finally come out the woodwork and basically be like, "How are you?"
right.
That is a gift that you know, the gift that keeps on giving. If you have that, you hold on to it. Um,
Yep.
and yeah, I get it. You don't have to explain yourself to anybody. If anything, what an amazing person and soul he must have to be able to honor and like to sit with you in your grief. It's still fresh, right? How it's been
Yeah.
three
It's been
years,
3 years
2.5.
now. It's been 3 years.
3 years, like for someone to sit that and walk alongside you and find ways to honor
I
him, that is huge because I feel like a lot of men struggle with like their egos are too big and they would feel incompetent or like have some resentment, and like you can't have that when it's grief because it's not personal, it has nothing to do with you. But if you're
Right.
able to separate that and still love me wholly, bruh, winning.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
there are a ton of men on this earth who, if that is unfathomable, impossible, they could never. I it's before Robert, obviously, like I attempted to do my talking and my, and everyone's response pretty much was, oh, but you got kids and their dad's dead. Yes.
Yeah.
Or so like how long are you gonna keep photos up, or are you gonna does this and I'm like,
Next.
I'm okay, thanks, I'm all right. Thanks, I appreciate it.
Wow.
So yeah.
Well, so what are the ways that you both still honor Daniel? Like what are, how do you find yourself honoring him every day?
I think the biggest thing, which is something that, social media won't understand or know and things like that. Um, and I don't think I've actually ever like said this out loud, so excuse me if I
That's okay, girl. Cry.
cry. um, honestly, we honor him every day by doing this, by doing life, by me choosing to love this man and him loving me and our kids and this family. That's truly what he would want. He wouldn't want me to be alone and sad and all the things. His goal, literally, when we first met when we were 15, he was like, I just want to see you happy, Tati. I want to see you thriving in this life. And he kept that even while we were married.
Wow.
So I would say that's the biggest way, right? And then obviously we have photos up. We talk about him literally every day. Just between memories, my oldest talks about him a lot. Um, and yeah, just the boys, like their PlayStation is actually Daniel's, but Robert set it up for them. Um, just things like that. We watch videos, photos, we talk about stories, where this came from, why. So just really daily things. He's like still a part of all of us, and even Robert, and he never even knew him. Yeah.
I just, it's so beautiful. Like I can't say it enough, and I'm getting emotional now. I just can't say enough how grateful I am that I met you because it's just refreshing and it's so validating when people are doing what you do on a day to day basis, but like you don't really have a lot of people to talk about it with, and you
Yes.
meet someone on the other side of the country that does that every day. And I talk to my daddy daily. I'll be like, Papi, like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. It's so, I actually have to, I think you would appreciate this quick story time.
Yeah.
Um, Last weekend was actually a really wild weekend for me because so my cousin, she has this, she's starting like a new, mobile coffee bar. She has like this trailer and she's turning, yeah, it's so dope. Like I'm so proud of her. And we got to work this festival in New Haven, Connecticut. And I was working the festival all day with her making coffee. I learned how to make a coquito latte. Like,
Ooh.
where they do that at? I made a coquito latte.
Okay.
And had the best time. But 2 days prior, my best friend, her grandfather, has been in the hospital and hasn't been doing well. And
Mm.
so we were talking that, we might see each other either at the festival, after the festival. And she actually told me he had went into cardiac arrest and that she was on her way closer to Hartford, where I live. And I was like, oh, okay. She never texted me back. She never called me back. And you just know. And clearly
You do.
like you just have that
Hmm.
sense, and which I call grief sense, by the way. And I left the festival early. I was like, something's telling me I'm gonna show up to the hospital. Girl, I don't even know how I knew where to go. Like, the guy at the front desk at the hospital, like, he was kind of giving me a hard time. I just kind of walked by him. I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go to the bathroom." I don't know how I knew where to go because her grandfather wasn't in the place that we were a few days prior. I end up in
Okay.
critical care, where his body was. I get to this lobby, the phone rings as if they're waiting for me, and they let me in. Sure enough, I get down the hallway. My best friend, her whole family's in the room, and her grandfather died, and he passed away. And it was like I hated that I knew that that was happening subconsciously. But what was so wild about that experience is walking in, the nurse, like, literally just got there. The nurse is handing out his heartbeat pattern in like a little tube, a little vial, and passing it out to all the family members. And she passes one to his wife. Um, and the howl and the scream that she let out as she looked at him, and she's just like wiping, his hair. ¿Cómo es posible? ¿Cómo es posible? Like, just saying, how is this possible? What is happening? Saying she wanted to give up. She didn't want to be here. And then I instantly thought about you, because that's when we connected. I thought about my mom and her, losing her partner, like all my just, and then my best friend, she's expecting a baby. I look at her and her partner, and like all, and then of course I think of my Willie, my partner, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like my heart just broke. And so it gets crazier. I sat with the family for a little bit, and then we were wrapping up to leave, still like crying, leaving the hospital. Get in the car. My I just recently met my birth father's family, by the way, a couple months ago. Just met them for the first time. Found out my abuelo's dying, and I'm like, how you just come into my life and you're dying? So I'm dealing with all of that. It's crazy. But on this like, I get this call. It's like an invite to join like a big family group chat, FaceTime call on Facebook Messenger.
Hmm.
And my aunts, my uncles, like, literally, apparently my grandfather has 13 kids and counting, because more keep popping up and popping up. And long story short, people are talking in the group chat, and I hear one of my aunts, that who I literally just met 2 weeks prior on like texting. Um, she says she's in Plainville, and I was like, Titi, like, as in Plainville, Connecticut? And she goes, yeah, yeah, I'm in Plainville. I said, girl, if you don't send me the Addy right now. And long story short, sent me the Addy. I pulled up, and apparently her mom's been living like literally 8 minutes away from my house this entire time, but whatever. Um, and I pulled up to the house, and I met my aunt for the first time, my
Oh
father's
my
sister.
God.
And like, she instantly, like, when she saw me, she instantly started crying. And she was like, literally, I knew your mom was pregnant of you, but oh, well, I was 8 months when my dad passed away, but she didn't go to the funeral because she was very upset with him, because he was, in the street life, and told him not to be on the motorcycle anymore. And our cousin died a month prior to my father the same exact way, and then he died a month later. And so she had a lot of grief and, resentment. Everybody
Yeah.
deals with grief differently, but she
Yeah.
moved away from the family. So it's been like 30
Mm.
years since she's spoken to anybody, nothing. And then I'm like her first, memory of like my dad. So we chill there, we're talking, blah blah blah. Next day, I take her to the cemetery to see my father's grave for the first time. And it was
Oh,
like, it was so wild to me because it was like seeing her, like I knew the perspective of losing my father, but I never thought to think about it from a sibling's perspective,
yeah.
and she's seeing, it was like she got the news fresh for the first time.
Mhm.
And we got to sit at the cemetery, we got to talk to him, and we got to cry together, and it was such a beautiful, painful experience. But that was my Saturday and Sunday. Like
That's a
like
Saturday and Sunday.
I see this woman lose the love of her life. And also Sunday morning, by the way, I told Willie, I was like, you cannot leave. And like, I just cried. And when you were talking about Robert, like, because I've been in a really tough, griefy ass season lately. Like, my dad's
Yeah.
anniversary is around this time. My abuelo's dying. My other grandfather's birthday just passed. It's just like so much grief around this time. And
Yeah.
like, he just sat with me and cried. I was like, yo, I'm about to bring my aunt to meet her brother's like his grave for the first time. Like, it's too much. And he sat there and we cried, and you were on my mind, like, is and then now we're recording today. It's just crazy. Like, I just feel like I had to share that story, but that,
No, I love it.
yeah. So thanks for listening.
No, you're such a beautiful person, and I think I'm so grateful that I came across you and your page because literally my mouth dropped when I literally went through I was like, somebody in this world is awesome and understands this and is actually doing something, you know? And, then I got nosy and I started going through things and I was like, "Ah, I just love
Lurk
this
all the
girl."
way.
I am. I'm a bit of a lurker. I
Same.
have to find out things. Yeah. So and I appreciate you so much for having something like this. I think it's amazing. And I just see you doing so many great things with this.
And
So
you're
I'm
gonna
so
be
proud
right there with me,
of
like
you.
the whole way, like, and
Yes.
but thank you for saying that. That's, you don't know how life affirming that is, because when grief, there's so many times when you want to give up, and it's not even, sometimes it's not even like you're thinking about it, right? It's like these intrusive thoughts just come out of nowhere. Like, you could be minding your own damn business, working, talking to your friend, having a good time, chilling with your kids. I'm chilling with my siblings, like watching a movie, like whatever. And then these intrusive thoughts come in, like, oh, I don't want to be here. And or you start
Yeah.
just thinking really dark and like really negative, and working in corporate for a while, that's where I spent a lot of my time before I decided to leave corporate. Like, I just really could not understand how, someone's world stopped and the world just keeps spinning, and it keeps going and it keeps going. And it's like people check on you, at the funeral, leading up to the funeral, maybe a little bit after the funeral. But then after that, oh, they're strong, they're fine, you know? And that's kind of who I am, like in my family and my friends. I am the strong one.
Right.
I'm always checking on other people. I'm not saying my people don't check up on me, but they're used to me being the super strong,
Right.
resilient one. And I'm not gonna lie, I got that show. I got it. I'm good, whatever. But
Yep.
it's the strongest ones that really need the most support. But when I was working, I was like, yo, like, this just doesn't make sense to me. These people got their 9 to 5 job, doing the day to day mundane stuff. And I mean, I was doing it too, but I couldn't do it anymore. I was just like, yo, like, there's something deeper happening here. Like, you going about your day to day, and this could be your last day.
Right.
This could be my last day seeing my partner. This could be my last day seeing my mom, my family members. And you just gonna act like life is on normal? Like, no. And so that's really why I dedicated literally my life to talking about this, because I'll be damned. Like, I'll be damned. Like, if I die tomorrow or whenever my time comes, I'll be
Yep.
honest with you, I feel like I will die peacefully and with nothing but gratitude in my heart, because I know that I did everything I could until my last breath to raise awareness about
Yeah.
this, about what we're
Yes.
talking about. And that's all that matters to me. Easy.
And you're doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud of you.
Well, you're also doing it, and I want to talk to you about that. So, after, sharing your
Mhm.
story went viral on TikTok.
Mhm.
How was that experience? Where do you kind of see things going after going viral and your platform is growing? And you probably would
Yeah.
have never thought you would go viral for this, but here we are,
No,
right? I can only imagine.
no. So it's funny you said that, right? So I had started TikTok literally right before my husband died, right?
Get out.
And yes, and he was like, babe, you're gonna become something. I see it on TikTok. I know. And I was like, yeah, it's just not the numbers, the math is not mathing. Okay. So as far as I know, I'm just a nobody on TikTok. But I still whatever. Nothing really, you know. And then he died. And after a certain point, I think it was right after I had our our youngest baby, I started to like post on TikTok about grief. Because that, not only did I have grief from my husband dying, but I'm also now pregnant. So all these hormones and feelings and stuff just weren't. It was a lot. And so, once he was out of me and stuff, and I felt quote unquote more normal, um, I started to share things about my grief. And it was more so for me because I didn't have really anyone who was, like you said, checking on me, talking to me like that could even semi understand. So it was more for me to just be like, damn, you know? And so I kept doing it. And then, um, I had gained I had gotten some, followers and traction and whatnot. But I had never talked about the day that he died with anybody. And for his 3 year, I was like, what am I going to do? Side note. So one of the things he really wanted to do before he died was skydive. He was like an adventure dude, like complete opposite of me. I was like, no. um, so after he died, I was like, dang it. I think I got to skydive, like to like honor you or something. And I did.
Oh
I did.
my gosh.
So I skydive every year on his death anniversary and I jump at his time of death. And this year, so happened that I could not jump because in Las Vegas, out of nowhere, it decided to get windy in April. And I was like, hmm.
Climate change.
So, right. So I was like, okay. So I message the person I jump with. He's the instructor, and he's like, yeah, we can't jump today, Tati. I'm sorry. And I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do? So I was like, all right, uh, I'm gonna talk about him. What am I gonna talk about? That's what I decided to do. And I was like, you know what? You've never talked with anyone about the day that he died. And so I recorded the video. I, honest to God, hand on a Bible, did not think that video was gonna go viral like it did.
Wow.
And it did. It
Yeah,
went
4
very
million,
viral.
right?
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah. And I got a lot of attention and a lot of traction from that. Obviously, not everything is great. It's social media and people are people. So there's always comments. Well, why didn't you call him and why weren't you blowing up his employers? I am his wife, I'm not his mama. Okay. He working his job. This is not abnormal. And other people asking very valid questions. Well, how come law enforcement didn't notify you? How come, this your guess is just as good as mine because I'm 3 years out and I still don't have these answers.
Mm.
Um, yeah. Um, but for the most part, it really did a lot because then it connected me to a lot of people. And then I got to hear other people's grief stories, and then you don't realize how many people on this earth actually have experienced significant loss and how it has affected them. And I think that was probably the most enlightening part of that is that I got to see other people in their grief and then they got to see me, and then we got to exchange things, and then we got to, become it created friendships that I didn't even know like could or would. And I was like, dang, maybe I should have posted this like 2 years ago when I really was really struggling. Um, but yeah, honestly, it's been great. It's a lot of networking from it, just a lot of genuine talks. I've had my message requests, literally thousands of message requests. Just thank you for telling your story. I've never told mine. Would you please listen? Of course,
Wow.
and
Wow.
yeah, it's just that has been awesome. Now, so did I think it was how my late husband meant I was gonna go be someone on TikTok? No.
Mm.
Um, but I am glad because it's also another way that I can keep him alive and his name alive. And that's really why I post on social media. So yeah.
Mm. Wow. I mean, thank you again for sharing. And there were so many things I picked up on that you said. I can just tell when he was here and even after, right? That your souls are like really connected. Like,
Yes,
I just feel like there's something deeper, like spiritual, that y'all had that no one can ever understand. Like I can easily like pick
absolutely.
up on that. Like for him to say, you're gonna be big on TikTok, and then for you on the day that he died, you just knew the whole time, but you didn't know exactly what. Like spiritual, baby. Like
It's great. It's crazy. And I would, like I said, people have their opinions
yeah.
and lots of them, but I would tell people all the time, like, me and Daniel, something about us, like, even from the moment I saw him, which we met at church, right, when we were 15, and I knew something about him was like, and my dad was like, he literally slid up on me. I'll never forget it. And I tell this story all the time. He slid up on me as I was staring at Daniel, and he was like, no, because my husband was a little bit of a bad boy. And so, I looked at my dad and I was like, little did he know that, 5 years later, I was gonna come knocking at his door with like, ta-da. um, but yeah, we've always been very connected, good times, bad times, always, and I've never actually felt, a big question everyone kind of asks anyone who experiences grief is, like, what are the signs? Do you ever feel them, or, things like that? And it's like, I don't think I ever stopped, like, even though he died and he physically left this earth, which I'm mad about,
Absolutely.
um, he's like still here and he's in these boys like no other, right? And so yeah, it's beautiful to have something like that with someone, and he truly was my best friend, and I think that's what makes this so special, and I think also hard for a lot of people to comprehend a lot of the hows and whys, because I truly don't believe what Daniel and I had, a lot of people truly get to experience.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that it was perfect, because no, it was far from that. But I think that is what made it so real and raw between he and I, and why even till now, like, yeah, I love that man no matter what. That was my husband. And yes, I love this new man no matter what, just like I love my last husband. It's just different and different chapters of life.
I truly, truly believe that if we are honoring our people who have died, we're going to get signs all the time. But if you're not
Yeah.
looking, if you're not putting that intention out there, I mean, and I'm not going to lie, sometimes I got like really upset because when my best friend died in 2011, like I didn't get signs for a long time. But I think
Hmm.
I was just so angry. I was just so turned off spiritually,
Yes.
mentally. Like I wasn't tapped in like how I am now in the sense of like being open and just being in receiving mode of, signs or whatever. It's hard to explain unless you actually go through it. And
Right.
I mean, you said you met him in church. I mean, I can only imagine, and,
Hmm.
and I've been there of like this fine line of like spirituality and faith and religion where it's like, Christianity and Catholicism tells you not to do ancestral veneration and like talking about the dead, but then like in spirituality it's like after you experience loss you have no choice but to sometimes, if you
Right.
choose, if you want to be close, if you want to keep those memories alive. And I'm wondering if I was battling with that when I was a little younger. Oh, like it's a bad thing
Yeah.
if I think about, so do you, have you ever experienced that? Like was that on your mind, or like yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm actually really glad that you asked that. Because another video of mine that actually went pretty viral is my relationship with God after he passed away. Because we are Christian, and my faith is very important to me.
Yeah.
Um, and I think after he passed, because like you said, when you're on the other side, we see things very differently than we did prior, you know. And I think a lot of people who knew me thought, like, all right, she abandoned God, like that. That was everyone's perception because I wasn't like looking or doing how,
Yeah.
what's quote unquote normal, right? And they were very far from it. I was talking to God every day because God is what kept me solid. Like the reason why I'm still here is 110% God, you know? But in that, also for my sanity and what I just felt like God was like, it's okay. I talked to Daniel every day. I was yelling at him every single day. Like, how dare you come get your kid? Why you just leave, you know? And that helped me. So I still do it to this day. And, did I have a battle because, there were comments said to me about, that fine line and things like that. But I think ultimately what I decided was if I feel good with God, right? And if what I'm doing is not really, really crazy, crazy, I'm okay, And if it's helping me process, if it's helping me get through this when no one else is, I think I'm good,
Yeah.
you know? So, it was a bit of a challenge for a little bit, but, I like I told everyone, you're just lucky you're not on this side.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I'm really grateful we're having this discussion. And I've always kind of struggled a little bit when it came to, like, I grew up in the church. I was in the choir. Like, listen, I was involved, I was baptized, like, I was really
Yep.
involved. But I'm not even gonna hold you. Like, all of the losses that I've experienced definitely made me question God for
Yeah,
sure.
for
And
sure.
that's really why I kind of went down the more spiritual path. And I was like, whether we call it God, whether we call it universe, whether we call it our ancestors or our spirit guides, like I honestly think it's all the same thing. And as long as I definitely feel like there's a higher being, there's something bigger than us. There has to be, because with experiencing so much loss, like I just feel like I've unlocked this. I don't even know how to explain it, but to what I was saying earlier about like that's what grief sense is. I feel like I've kind of unlocked this new level of consciousness, if that makes sense.
Something
After
like that.
after loss, like I just have like the deeper appreciation for life. The little things are no longer little things. The little things are really really big things.
Really
And
big things.
I just value people and I value my relationships because I do know that that could potentially be the last time I talk to this person. Like and you'll learn this about me. I love snail mail and letters. I'm gonna write you one of these days. Like
I
I
love
just
it.
handwritten notes, voicemails, like
Yes,
you got to tell me your birthday. I'm gonna add it to my calendar. Like
I
I want
got
to know
you.
Daniel's anniversary too and his birthday. Like those dates are super important to me, especially for my grief chosen family, like it's just whatever we have to do to stay close to each other, stay close to our people. I honestly think only good is going to come.
Yeah.
And what we talked about too, like I think your story is a perfect example, as many, grief stories are examples of, is that joy and pain coexist. Like
Absolutely.
you can feel pain and you can feel joy at the same time. It's like I feel like adulting in general, but especially like when the grief is griefing, like we're breaking and healing like all at once. It's like such a wild ride.
It is. It is. And I think that's why, like, and that's where kind of like you said, like for me, like there's no other way God, like there has to be God, because just the infinite things that happen in this world, and then us as human beings, what we experience, what we take on, how we do it, just the magnitude of it all. And yet here we are and we experience that and we take that in, and it's heartbreaking and yet it's beautiful all at once, you know. And um I just, there's so much beauty in that. I find it beautiful in the fact that I have loved another human being who's no longer physically on earth, so much that to this day, I still mourn him. I'm still missing him. I'm still sad for him. I'm still happy for him. In the same sense that there's this man right here that I'm madly in love with, that's holding me and reassuring me as I'm feeling these things, because this person loves me that much and I love him that much. And the fact that these two things can exist at one time is really unfathomable, right?
Yeah.
When you're looking on the outside. And then when you're on the other side though, you're like, wow, like this is like, life is truly beautiful, and we do have to value it, because not a moment is guaranteed to us no matter what, you know? And that's, you know, it's as simple as Daniel thought he was going to buy a brand new TV on Friday night. That's, he thought that, okay? Just
Right.
like you think you're going to go to, you know, your cousin's quince, or you're going to
Yeah.
your dad's 40th birthday or whatever have you. You know, you think that's going to happen, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to happen, you know. And I think just taking in these moments in life, and all that exists in grief and outside of it is truly precious.
It absolutely is. And, you know, I do want to say too, like, I feel like you are just a living, breathing permission slip to other young widows. Um, I'm getting emotional. And to other young people in general, that you can go through the most traumatic and painful experience of your life and still live and
You can still live.
still live. You can still love. And you know, I'm working on a TikTok video soon. I have this vision and I think of I'm just going to create it soon, but there's this ay, Dios mío, I don't know where I put it. It's, I don't know if you've been seeing it. It's like been viral on TikTok, the vision board, the Tango
Yes.
Bird vision board journal book, and I got it.
Yes.
And I've already been cutting it up, working on my journal, and I want to share a video on it soon. But
Awesome.
what I think I'm going to say in that video, or just what's been really top of mind for me, and I see it in you as well, is like, I truly think people who have experienced loss are the most creative people on this planet. I mean, we're actors, we're like, we can be film directors, like we
Literally.
got producers, like, you know, but I truly feel that we are the most creative people on this planet. And that's also why I kind of have like a hyper focus on creatives and content creators, because I feel like we know how to create new realities because we have no choice. We've had to
Yes.
reinvent ourselves in numerous ways,
Mm,
in ways that we never thought we would. To, like, you're creating a whole new reality for yourself. And I
yes.
think another reason why you are another walking, breathing, beautiful permission slip is that you are still so young and you have so much life ahead of you, and you are trying to make sense of this new reality, creating it as you go. As in corporate, they used to say, building the plane as you fly it, you know, like that's pretty
Literally.
that's like concerning working for corporate America. Like, what you mean, this plane ain't built yet?
Right. Well, it's not
But
built. Who?
who's the pilot? What are
Right.
we doing? But when you experience loss, like that literally is the best. Like, you're building the plane
That's,
as you fly
yes.
it, and you're doing a really freaking amazing, beautiful job, even though I know it's a job you never asked for. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you know, I'm kind of glad you said that, because I think that's also something I had to learn, right? Because no, I didn't ask to be nobody's young widow, okay?
Mm.
Nobody's.
Nobody.
Nobody. Um, but I think this is also why it is very important to talk about death and grief, and really make it, you know, known, because the thing is that when you choose to love someone, whether it's your spouse, your kids, your whoever, right?
Mm.
This is the world, and death happens and exists no matter what. So as much as I want to say like, no, I ain't signed up for this, because no, I didn't, but
Right.
in the same breath, I did.
Mm,
Which is why we have vows, right? Like, because
that's
I did say till death do us part. It
damn.
wasn't supposed to be like that soon.
Damn.
But
That's true.
so we do, and but that is the beauty of love. That is the cost of love, and I think that's when people start to grasp that,
Mm,
then you can understand, and it makes it that much more like pure and beautiful, and like maybe we would learn to cherish and respect people and our partners more if we understood that truly we signed up for the fact that I could lose you in any moment. And so with
mm.
that knowledge, I'm going to do my utmost to make sure that I am my best for you in all of our moments.
Wow. That's so powerful. I mean, that's actually bringing up another thought for me, though. Like, if you could give advice to people who still have their partners,
Mm-hmm.
what would be a question you would recommend they ask that you weren't able to ask Daniel before
Mm-hmm.
he passed? That maybe you are thinking about talking to Robert about, or maybe that you've already talked to Robert about? Like, what are some of those questions or conversations you've had or recommend people have with their partners while they're still alive?
I think it's actually pretty simple. The questions I would say, um, to talk to your partners, because it should be something that we do anyways, but because it's life, life happens. I think it's just being more intentional with everything. That starting with your partner. If I could have asked Daniel anything, it would have just been like, how can I love you more? Like, how do I do that? What else can I do to show you that you're the amazing human being that you are? Like, how do I show you that respect, that genuineness, that you're a necessary, beautiful soul that I cherish on this earth?
Mm,
That would probably be it, because, it helps in all aspects of the relationship. And how do I honor you? Kind of like, not to get religious or anything, but biblically, how they go and they wash Jesus's feet. How can I wash your feet? Like, how do I do that for you? Because that builds a bond, a trust, so many things within that, because they know what the goal is, and that is to make sure you're good. That's what they
mm.
want for you. And then also, do you got life insurance? Because that's a little tidbit I'm going to put in there, guys. Because listen, we were so young. My husband died at 26, okay? And it was crazy because right before, literally 2 days before he died, he was like, babe, we got to get life insurance because I'm a roofer and that's dangerous. I said, you know what? I said, yeah, we'll do that at the end of the week. Why? He died 2 days later in a car accident. I said, this is so rude. So get
That's
life insurance, guys, because I had to do everything from scratch. I was a stay at home mom, he's blue collar worker. We ain't have that much money saving. I mean, no, that's not much. And so, it would have been a lot easier, a lot less stress on me, especially because I found that I was pregnant after. If I didn't have to go immediately into trying to figure out how to save the family. If we had life insurance, I would have had many more deep breaths and a chance to actually grieve, and actually take that space for me. And, unfortunately, that wasn't the case. But there are so many people who don't have life insurance because you think, well, I'm not sick, I'm nowhere near old, and things like that. But no, if you got kids, if you're married, you should absolutely have life insurance.
mm,
It's yes, don't question it, just get it.
mm. I'm so grateful you said that. I've actually had life insurance since I was 20 years old because, yeah, literally because it was just ingrained in my brain because my father, he died at 21. And so that was like etched in my brain. My mommy, she was always like, we got to make it to 21. You got to make it to 21. And I was like, well, damn, well, I'm turning 21 next year. I got to get my life insurance,
Right.
Because, like, literally growing up, I don't know. Like logically, it doesn't make sense. Just because someone else, like your father, dies at a certain age doesn't mean you're gonna die at a certain age. But
Right.
that was my
Yeah.
reality. Like I did
Yeah.
not think I was gonna make it past 21, 28 now. So we locked in. We
Oh, you
good.
in here. We good. You're
We
fine.
winning. But just thank you for sharing that. And I do want to say, like, what's something that you wish people knew about Daniel? Like, what everyone listening in right now, what should we know about Daniel? Like, how can we hype him up and honor him today and every day?
I love that. Um, who Daniel was literally the most selfless person I had ever met. It literally disgusted me. I'd be like, why are you like this? I thought I was nice. No. Mm-mm. Um, I think the best way that anyone on this earth could honor him is literally by living how he literally just cared about people. Like it didn't matter. He just my husband was literally a week before he passed away. A dog ran on a major street, right? And I looked at him and I was like, Daniel, right? And I'm not even a huge animal person, okay? But like it scared the mess out of me. Why did this fool in the middle of an intersection jump out of the car and was like, get in the car? Ran after the dog to save it from being hit. I'll never forget this. And then I'm like driving, searching, and he chases this dog for miles until he gets the dog safe.
Wow.
And that's just how he was. He literally just loved. It didn't matter what your circumstance, what he didn't care. His thing was, I'll never tell you I can't help you or no. I'll do what I can, and I'll always let you know I'll do what I can. And so I think just that, just do what you can, be who you are, love others, and that's literally who he was.
Wow. So everyone listening, let's channel our inner Daniel and just live, care for each other, love thy neighbor, right? Like just
Literally. Yeah.
if you can go the extra mile, do it. Try it out.
Exactly. Yep.
If you
If you
can't do it,
can.
just do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And yeah. I take it in, I probably did a little too much. I probably overdid it after he died because I was just trying to, super. And I was like, all right, you got to take it, pull back a little bit.
You can do more.
But
Yes, exactly.
right, yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah.
if you're able, if you can, without sacrificing your peace and your,
Yes.
safety,
Yes.
do it. Why
That.
not? Yeah,
Don't sacrifice your peace. Don't do that. Don't sacrifice your home. But, he just was a beautiful soul. I'll never, he just, he's amazing. And I'm so glad that I have two children by him because they are literally, they have, they have him and it's,
Yeah. He's here every day. And I'm honored to even experience his energy through you today. And that everybody listening will every they know his name and they will continue to know
yes.
his name. And as long as I shall live, I will be honoring and amplifying his name. Wow, Tatiana, I am so blessed. I mean, we say it all the time, but I'm just blessed to know you, and I just can't wait to be part of your life if you let me.
Yeah. What you already are. You done
We locked
signed
in.
up for this.
We
Yep.
locked in.
Locked in.
Well, on that note, how can people get tapped in with you? How can they get connected with you? I just really want people to, you're just so friendly and so kind. And, yeah, I just want more people to know you. So how can they find you and connect with you?
You're awesome. Well, you can find me through this beautiful woman, obviously. Um, you can find me on TikTok for sure, official Tatiana Banks. Same with Instagram, official underscore Tatiana Banks. Um, I'm currently working on a project that hopefully becomes a very big, important thing
It will.
um, because it's needed. I'm working on creating a foundation for widows and widowers to basically provide aid and help because unfortunately it's just not something that's there. It's not a resource, even though death is very, very common and happens often. So yeah, I'm working on that. It's a big thing. I'm trying to get connections, networking, all that good stuff. So when everything's good to go, you'll hopefully see that too. It'll kind kind of mimic my current business that I did start off for my late husband, which is the childcare. So it'll be called Mind State. And yeah, we're kind of going to go from there.
Love it. Mm.
Yeah.
Well, what an honor it is to follow your journey. I can't wait to see you grow and how this is going to grow. And it's just really Daniel's legacy is living on and thriving, and there's no turning back. Like it's just going to keep elevating and growing from here. And everyone tuning in, like, I'd love to know your thoughts on this episode. Please let, Tatiana and I know. Reach out to us. Let us know what you thought. If you share a similar experience, I hate that you know this grief and share this pain, but I would love to love on you and honor your story as well. So with that, Tatiana, thank you so much for sharing your story, for being here, and again, for not giving up, because if you would have gave up, I would have never met you. And I'm not going to let you ever give up now because we
Nope.
So with that, y'all, we'll catch you on the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Griefsense familia, that wraps up another episode of the Griefsense podcast. If this resonated with you, please feel free to share with someone who will appreciate it and tell a friend to tell a friend. Also, I'm a firm believer that feedback is a gift. So, I'm just saying, I won't be mad if you decide to leave a review and a rating of your experience on the podcast so far. Also, let's help each other find community in grief, and let's amplify these stories far and wide. Thank you for tuning in. En solidarity y con mucho amor, Mimi.